Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe. Now read by Disney, or current Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it. Legends. Today I have for you the remainder of the Tales of the Jedi time period. In the last video, we got introduced to two of the key players in this series. Ulic Qel-Droma, who I will now never forget, and Nomi Sunrider and her daughter, Vima Sunrider. Now, we are continuing off where we last left off with the Freedom Net Uprising. And we get to Dark Lords of the Sith. And then after that, Sith War, a couple short stories and a Tales comic in between there. And Redemption, which is, before getting into spoilers, my absolute favorite of the entire series run of everything. I will say, for non-spoiler wise, when I talk about each single one, they tie into one another, so there will be slight spoilers. So if you would like no spoilers whatsoever, then here's my overall thoughts. The entire Tales of the Jedi series run by Tom Veitch, and then later on finished off by Kevin J. Anderson, was really fun. Though I have to say, without a shadow of a doubt, that the Redemption 5-issue arc was absolutely phenomenal. It blew every other comic book to the water. Just utterly surpassed it. I might even like it more than the entirety of Legacy, to be honest. It was really, really good. Redemption was written well, and I think it was a beautiful little story to tell. But yeah, the rest of it's really fun. We get to see Mandos, I'll say that. So that's really cool. With Dark Lords of the Sith, I'm going to get into the slight spoilers. I'll get into full spoilers afterwards, but for those who want to go in knowing nothing, just know that the entire series is pretty good, and it's well worth your time, especially if you want to call yourself, I mean, you don't have to, but if you want to be an Expanded Universe fan and see everything that the Expanded Universe has to offer, this is something you should spend your time on. So Dark Lords of the Sith is where we get introduced to a great villain, where we get introduced to Exar Kun, who is a Jedi apprentice, and he's trying to learn more about the dark side, because so many things go well when you do that. Meanwhile, you have the story with Ulic Qel-Droma and Nomi Sunrider, and events escalate, and Ulic Qel-Droma wants to defeat the Sith, wants to defeat the Darksiders from the inside. Being a double agent, you might say. How all that turns out is for you to find out, because we already have examples of this happening in the Expanded Universe. We have Luke, who tried it in Dark Empire. I believe something similar, though I haven't read it yet, but I believe a similar arc happens with Quinlan Voss. It's like poetry. It rhymes. But that's what happens. As we get to Sith War, again, slight spoilers. By the end of everything, Ulic Qel-Droma has turned to the dark side. He has joined forces with Exar Kun. And now they are going to wreak havoc upon the Jedi. Qel-Droma doesn't like to listen to Exar Kun and takes an assault to Coruscant with the Mandalorians, while Exar Kun continues his stuff on Yavin. It ends, as all things must end, with the bad guy getting defeated, though not dead, and in a way, escaping death, which isn't really a spoiler, because if you've read the Jedi Academy trilogy first, like I have, you know that it's not Kip Durin, the main enemy of that book. Well, in the first one, it's like the Empire, and I guess they're a recurring thing, but it's mostly Exar Kun. That's the big selling point, anyway. I like the Jedi Academy trilogy, despite what people like to hate on it for. And then we get to Redemption. 10 years after the events of Sith War. An older, heartbroken Ulick after all the events of the previous arcs. And Nomi Sunrider, now a Jedi Master, and her daughter's growing up. And other people who have not let go of their anger and rage from the grief. What happened during those wars. And it's the best story that you'll read, but it won't carry as much weight if you haven't read the previous stuff. And you'll still enjoy it, but I'd recommend reading all of it. Overall, utterly fantastic series. Up next, we have Knights of the Old Republic. 50 issues, so I don't know how long that will take to finish. If it's anything like the Legacy, it'll be a little bit. And then KOTOR, the video game. So I hope you join me for that. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Showing episode a ton. Don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. As for the rest of you, who are veterans or just don't care about spoilers, join me as we discuss Dark Lords of the Sith, Sith War, some short stories, and then Redemption, my favorite. Starting with Dark Lords of the Sith by Tom Veitch and Kevin J. Anderson. They worked together on that one. We get introduced Exar Kun, as I mentioned. The cousins, or brother and sister, I forget, from the previous issues, they now have like this, they're learning Sith magic and whatnot, and so they're wrecking havoc across, not across the entire, galaxy, but they're wrecking havoc. This was just an interesting note. It's not really relevant that much, but I thought I'd mention it just because, well, we don't get to know too much about Alderaan after episode 4 because it goes kaboom! But Ulick and Clay are both Alderaanians. They're both from Alderaan. And then we get to issue 2, and there's other stuff going on in that issue, but that's all I felt relevant to. The only thing that really stood out to me was Exar Kun himself, because he's really cool. And that. Issue 2, Kun travels to Alderaan. The Sith cult that the cousins or brother and sister, I forget, created is called Krath, or whatever. Exar Kun, while on Alderaan, meets the spirit of Nad, and Nad talks to him about all this stuff, which you can read in the issue. And it's just getting him ever closer to becoming the Dark Lord of the Sith. There's a battle of the minds between, I think, Nomi Sunrider and, I forget her, Alema. Before the Twi'lek would have that name, it was this human lady that had Sith magic. We get to issue 3. Sith cult has declared war, and so the Jedi gather to discuss what they should do. My note, the phrase, curiosity killed the cat. Well, in my note, I just wrote down, curiosity killed Exar Kun. Exar Kun is continuing to follow this dark trail to learn everything he can, to get that knowledge. And because so, Frida Nad's spirit piles a bunch of rocks in him, breaks his body down, makes it physically impossible for him to ever walk again, seemingly to die. But Nad promises there's one way to save you. Give in to the dark side. And so, he does. There's a Droid Rebellion, apparently, that happened before. This is just... There's a battle going on in this issue, outside of what's going on with Exar Kun, with Ulic Qel-Droma and Nomi Sunrider and everyone else. And they're fighting droids. But one of the... I don't know if it's the Master Arca, I forget, but somebody mentions a Droid Rebellion on Coruscant that happened a little bit ago. We don't have any, like, books on that, but it's just interesting that, like, an event like that happened, and we don't really have anything about it. Kun heads to Yavin 4. And Nomi and Ulic, we find out that after Nomi, she lost her husband and everything, but she's been getting closer to Ulic, and they kiss. Issue 4. Complacency with the Jedi seems to be a constant. This is a complaint against the Jedi in the KOTOR games. This is one of the striving forces for why the Jedi fail in the prequels. And it isn't until we get to Luke where succession happens. And even then, Luke's hesitancy to go on the offensive, which is understandable from his perspective, is what leads to the Vaughn being able to do more damage. And then all to eventually go, Kip, you were right, without actually saying that, because Kip is usually right. Sorry, don't fight me. Kip is one of the best Jedi post-Episode 6. Sorry, it's just a fact. It's not a fact, it's my opinion, but it's the right opinion. I'm just playing with you. I like Kip. Kun betrays Nad, though, because he's now becoming a Dark Lord of the Sith, and he doesn't need no other spirit to tell him what to do. Issue 5. Ulic is falling. I don't remember exactly what was going on in issue 5 now. It's been a while. But I know that he... I don't know. Did I not write it down? There's a... Because... Oh my goodness. Well, anyway, he goes, like I said, to go undercover just to stop the Sith. And then we get to issue 6. Everyone tries to save Ulic, but he doesn't want to be saved. Oh, did I mention that Arca died? And that kind of pisses off and sends... Right. Arca dies, and that sets Ulic on the path. He's like, I'm going to destroy them from the inside. I will be able to defeat the darkness. All to honor and defend in, his master's honor. Master Arca died. He's not doing too well. And he gets the Sith poison in him, and he's just being worse and worse, and people try to save him, and he just doesn't want to be saved. And then we have Ulic versus Exar Kun in a fight, and it's fun until these spirits show up, and they're like, no, stop. Exar Kun is going to be the master, and you, Ulic Qel-Droma, are going to be the apprentice. Always two there are, no more, no less. Of course, back then, there was, other dark side users and stuff, but it's interesting that even back then, the rule of 2 was a thing. It got, like... Darth Bane was really hard for it, but even back then, yeah, that sort of dynamic of a master and apprentice. And then we get to some short stories. From Adventure Journal 11, The Most Dangerous Foe, by Tenual Phillips. Not sure what I wrote there, but something Phillips. It's in Adventure Journal 11, The Most Dangerous Foe. But there's a Jedi who has a girl on trial. This is before, well, I guess the Sith Wars are going on, but before the Sith War comic book issue. So, there's this Jedi girl. She is doing this Jedi trial to become a knight. And then that is basically it. Without getting into spoilers, really, because I know I said spoilers, but it's a short story. I don't want to spoil it too much for you. But she just goes through a trial, and that's about it. Like, if you want to know what happens, read the short story. It's actually it's a pretty okay story. I enjoyed it, but I don't want to spoil it too much because it's a short story. And then if you go to the Tales of the Jedi Companion, there's a short story, though you don't have to actually get it. There are ways to do that online. Just saying. It is A Tale from the Dark Side by George Stratton. This Jedi does not believe in the ideas of light side, dark side, believes that it's all about how you act. She probably would have been very good friends with Verge or Kreia. But if you read the story, you can find out how that all ends for her. And that is pretty much it for those short stories that take place before Sith War. Now we get the Tales of the Jedi, Sith War by Kevin J. Anderson. So in issue 1, Mandos, baby! Mandos are here! The first time, chronologically, that we get to see some freaking Mandos, and man, is it cool. The Mandalore, the leader of the Mandalorians, wants Ulick to fight him. A bargain is made that if he loses in battle, that Ulick can have command of his forces. And so they fight. And Kuhn is trying to coerce Jedi to the Sith ways. 2 months have passed, I forgot to mention, since Dark Lords of the Sith. Odin Yor gets killed by Exar Kun. Ulick attacks Coruscant. And Kun tries to train Dark Jedi. We get to issue 2. It's just more of Coruscant being attacked is most of the issue. Not too much story beats are really... I mean, there's stuff in there, but it's not enough to really talk about. Issue 3. Alema is just a wannabe Sith. See, this is where Alema decides, I'm going to betray Ulick. This is where she starts planning it, I think. Because it's what Sith do. It's what they naturally lean to. Time to betray, time to get ahead and do that, and it's so self-destructing. Darth Bane's rule 2 is a bit better than that. Because, you know from the outset, yeah, betrayal. But, if you're going to try to kill me, make sure you surpass me. Use me for all I'm worth first. Yeah, so... I never liked Alema anyway. I thought she was boring. And now I just really dislike her. What I really appreciated, though, was the Mandalore's loyalty to Ulick. We see this, like, he could just do one thing. But he suspects, yeah, she's betraying Ulick. And he sticks by him. And then... Alema betrays him, and so he gets captured by the Jedi and the Republic, and he has to go to trial. But Kuhn comes to Ulick's trial to save him because the Mandalore came to Exar Kun himself and said, we need to help him. The only part of this entire series I did not enjoy and was a bit confused by was that Vodo, Exar Kun's previous master, uses a wooden stick against Exar Kun's double-bladed lightsaber, and it doesn't break? Maybe you can give me an explanation for that down in the comments. I mean, I can headcanon it up to, well, he was imbuing it with the Force, like, some of the ancient Jedi did with the sabers, so that's why he was able to not break, but still it's weird. And as a Jedi, why doesn't he have a lightsaber? I don't know. That was my only real complaint. And then, of course, yeah, we get to see Exar Kun, who is the first person in real life to hold a double-bladed lightsaber in the Star Wars media. In fact, George Lucas read these comics, and he loved that idea so much that when he made episode 1, he made sure that Darth Maul had a double-bladed lightsaber as well. So here's an example to all those who say that George Lucas didn't care about the expanded universe, or whatever you like to say. Right here is an example of him picking an idea from the expanded universe, using it in his stuff. Now, of course, the history of the Jedi is what he gave pointers to and stuff. But I don't think he came up with the idea of the double-bladed lightsaber. I think that was somebody else. Although, the Jedi Academy trilogy, if that came out first, and I guess that's the first time, I'm not exactly sure. But regardless, Jedi Academy trilogy and this comic book series all came out for episode 1, and so George Lucas got it from these, because we know for a fact that he read the comics. Then we get to issue 4. Many Jedi Masters are killed. Exar Kun has all these, new, followers, and he sends them out to assassinate their masters. So this is not the entire Jedi Order like we will see come up in KOTOR, or during the prequel era, or during the Legacy era. But this is an example where we get to see many, masters of the Jedi who just get killed off. I think it was, up to 8 or something like that, but it was a lot. Supernova, death for treachery and incompetence. So Ulick and Exar Kun, everyone knows what's up, except for them. Lemma and this Cathar that turned to the dark side, and honestly I was bored by him. I didn't care, but his story does matter because it affects redemption in a way that's really good, so we'll let that pass. But basically they get rid of the Republic forces that are following them, but because of what they do, the supernova kills both of them, kills Lemma and kills the Cathar, which was cool. And the whole comic pile with that was really cool to see. Issue 5. Master Odd, or Ood, I don't know how you would say that, he turns into a tree. And I think this is a direct connection to Dark Empire, because I believe he's in that as well. But he does become a tree. And in this issue, this will have heavy repercussions for the next comic book issue. But it was pretty sad. Ulick kills his brother, and that finally sets him back on the right course, is after he kills his brother and he can't believe what he has done. Issue 6. Nomi, seeing what Ulick has done, she somehow, we don't really get an explanation for how, but she strips him of the Force, sort of like what happened to the Vong. So now he's no longer in the Force. But the Mandos, despite the fact that Ulick is gone, they attack Onderon. Exar Kun finds, in a way to cheat death. At this point, Ulick's failed. His plans have failed. There's no hope of him keeping this new golden age of the Sith. So he sacrifices all this Masasi and is trapped in darkness. But he will show back up again thousands of years later during the Jedi Academy trilogy. If you want to see what I thought about Exar Kun and the stuff that he did and all that fun stuff, go check out my videos on the Jedi Academy trilogy. We get a 2-year time jump, and Ulick is just on his own. And it's kind of a happy ending, but we will continue with the next thing, which takes place 10 years later. Tales of the Jedi Redemption. After this short thing we must talk about, which is Star Wars Tales, Issue 23, Shadows and Light, by Josh Ortega. So, I've heard a lot of things about Star Wars Tales, most of them not good, but this, I believe, was a legitimately good story, or a decent story, right? It feels more like KOTOR than the previous stuff has. It feels more in line with what we're about to see. And the connections it makes to the video game are pretty cool. I enjoyed it. And overall, just thought it was a pretty decent read. And it also takes place 3 years after the events of Sith War. Though, if you're following that that the end of the issue takes place 2 years later, then actually this would take place a year later. But it was really interesting. For Star Wars Tales, because the thing with Star Wars Tales, it's a comic book issue, right? Comic book issues are short, usually like 24, 27 pages. But there's multiple short stories in that 27 pages. So you can imagine that the Shadows and Light story was not very long. But overall, I enjoyed it. And now I'm going to get into spoilers. If you don't want spoilers, then you need to skip ahead like 3 minutes, because I'm going to spoil the heck out of this issue, and it's so short, you don't want that. But I like it, I have to mention it. We get to meet a new Droma. It's Duran Queldroma, so that's cool. We also get to see that it feels more like KOTOR. We already have mentions of a Sith Academy on Korriban, which we'll see in the KOTOR games. And then there is a KOTOR vision that the Droma guy has, which is really interesting. He gets to see Malik for a second and Revan, so that was fun. The Twi'lek is having casual sex. There's 2 humans. They're like kind of in love or whatever. And then this third Twi'lek, right? This Twi'lek is having sex, having a good time, doing all that stuff, right? And then he sees the Droma and this other girl kissing, and he chastises them for it. The utter hypocrisy. I was so pissed at this guy. He's sticking his Twi'lek stuff in other Twi'lek people and then gonna yell at them for having an innocent little kiss because you're not allowed to form attachment. Which I guess the meme that Jedi were allowed to have sex as much as they want so long as they didn't care about that person is proof right there. That is awful. I'm sorry. I don't care if you're religious or not. That is awful. The idea that you can yell at someone who's actually in love with the other person and cares about that person, kissing them, you're going to chastise them for that, but then you're going to go stick your stuffs into other people. Oh, that pissed me off. It pissed me off so much. The Jedi of the Old Republic are the most hypocritical people ever. We're all hypocrites. Like I like to say, you know, like Frank Turek. If you don't know who Frank Turek is, you can Google him. But, you know, I go to church. Church is filled with hypocrites. So whenever people say that, you know, Christians are hypocrites, I say, yeah, we're hypocrites. We have room for one more, right? We're all hypocrites. But it's recognizing our hypocrisy, you know, and trying to be better and not... It's not that you can't judge other people. It's that if you're struggling with the same thing, don't judge other people for it until you fix it yourself. But the Bible, it's a misinterpretation, or not a misinterpretation, it's a misquote by non-religious people to say, like, you're not allowed to judge me, your book says so. No, it doesn't. Shut up. Anyway, that Twi'lek sucks, and I'm glad he died. Unfortunately, the other 2 characters also die. Though, we do see at the very end, we get a flash forward again, and Revan apparently wears Droma's robes or something like that. That was weird. But that's pretty much it. Anyway, out of you know, it was a pretty fun little story. I enjoyed it. But now on to the grandiose, the best part of this entire era, Tales of the Jedi Redemption by Kevin J. Anderson. Alright. Hold on. Let me get to it. Ulick and Kip are very similar. This is why I've never understood the criticism. Ulick, after all the terrible things he's done, decides to run away, hide, become a hermit. You know, in a way that actually makes sense for the character to go that way. If you like the sequels, it's okay. I'm sorry for Little Jai. Let's all come together and love Star Wars, regardless. But he runs away. Kip is constantly called the Butcher. There's a short story. He's called the Butcher. And I don't understand the arguments that people make against the Jedi Academy trilogy for what Kip did, considering he was being in control by Exar Kun. And I guess in the same sense you could say, well, Ulick is being controlled by the Sith toxin. Exactly. And he's forgiven in the end. That's what this whole story is. Redemption and forgiveness. That's what the entire Star Wars universe is all about. Anakin Skywalker's redemption at the end of episode 6 when he saves his son. Revan's redemption, at least in the games, when he, goes from being a Dark Lord of Sith. Now, he had legitimate reasons for that, and we'll get into that, about the hypocrisy of the Jedi when we get to when it's relevant. But, he finds a balance too, from what I understand. Luke himself, he tries to do exactly Ulick Qel-Droma does. He tries to defeat the dark side from within. And he has to be redeemed as well. You get too close to the sun and you burn. Not everyone has redemption. The Vong don't have redemption. Though in a sense, they do. And that's what I loved about the Legacy comics. It was a failed redemption because of the one Sith. But it was taking a race who had done horrible things and trying to show the galaxy that they're better now, that they can be better, that they can be forgiven. Right? That was the whole process of making that plan, was to put the Vong in a better light because everybody saw them as the boogeyman. That just didn't come to fruition. Star Wars is forgiveness. Star Wars is redemption. Ulick's story in this is incredible. And so is Kip's. And they're so similar with that whole guilt about what they've done. In the beginning of this, Ulick just wants to be left alone and leave everyone else alone. And maybe even die. Right? Kip, on the other hand, he spends his every waking moment trying to correct the wrongs that he has made. And that's why they're both phenomenal characters for different reasons. But all of you, if you like Ulick, but then hate Kip's story in Jedi Academy, I'm sorry, but you are hypocritical. You are not analyzing both as well as you probably should. It's like poetry. It rhymes. But to the actual issue. Sorry, I have to defend my boy Kip because I love Kip and people make stupid arguments against him. And he was right like half the time in New Jedi Order. This is 10 years after the Sith War, which I've said. Vima's a little troublemaker. Her mother, Nomi Sunrider, has no time to train her. She's a Jedi Master now. But Vima wants to be a Jedi. I didn't realize, reading this, that Ex's station, which is where they're at the beginning of this, is the same station from the Junior Jedi Knight series. I didn't even make that connection until I saw a certain panel. I was like, that looks familiar. And then I went, I literally made a thumbnail of that for Junior Jedi Knights. So that was cool. Ryloth is currently having troubles. We get to see the Twi'lek that's been... I didn't really mention the Twi'lek because he doesn't have much of a character arc or a story in any of the Tales of the Jedi series, but he's there. And there's troubles going on in Ryloth. Nomi hides aboard this guy named Hogon's ship. Hogon was this guy who took Ulick, not knowing it was Ulick, to this ice world because she wants to go have Ulick train her. And so she eventually does meet Ulick, and their entire dynamic is wonderful, and that's what absolutely made me love this entire 5-issue run more than anything else, was these 5 issues right here. It was incredible. There's a certain panel that I shared on my Instagram. I was so enamored with it, where he talks about, I've done terrible things. I betrayed your mother. I killed my brother. I saw my master die. I have enough children's blood on my hands. Why would you want to learn anything from me? It's so well written, and Kevin J. Anderson did a phenomenal job. Sylvar is still struggling with anger and rage and resentment over Ulick, putting all the blame on him, even though her lover, the guy who died from the supernova that we talked about, made his own choices. She yells at Ulick and all the terrible things that he's done and how he fell to the dark side, but is letting her anger control her. We get to issue 4. Sylvar is doing all these ancient customs she has on her planet, the Cathar place, to get rid of her anger, to get rid of it. She's a cat-like species, so she, tries ripping open a freaking rat's, guts and allowing that to cleanse her of her anger, but it doesn't cleanse her. She's still angry. And while Ulick is training Vima teaches him. And says, I've taught you pretty much everything I can, but I'm not a Jedi anymore. I can't help you anymore. She says, why not? You're making excuses. The Force, it's like a painting. I was an artist, but I can no longer see. So she says, you don't have to. Be something else. Be a sculptor. Again, just incredible writing. Wonderful stuff like that. We get to issue 5, the last and final one. Nomi and Ulick reunite. Nomi in the last issue found out that, Vima was with him, and she goes in search to get her daughter back. Sylvar finds out where Ulick is as well. She confronts Ulick. They have a fight. But after what Ulick says stuff, Silver finally is at peace. She's able to finally let go of all this hatred and anger that she's been holding on to. However, the stupid discount loser guy that has a freaking head helmet thing that looks like a rebel soldier thing, and he looks like a discount LeFou, whoever that guy is from Beauty and the Beast that sings Gaston. He looks like that, and he shoots Ulick in the back several times. We're not even going to mention him. He just runs off. And in the end, Ulick dies. But his body disappears. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Or Yoda. But only Jedi seem to be able to do that. Usually. But he wasn't one with the Force anymore. How did he do that? Well, because he may not have had the Force or been a Jedi by law. But he had the heart of a Jedi. And that's how the series ends. And Tales of Jedi, as I said before, and I'm going to say it again, Redemption is my favorite comic book of Star Wars, as of right now, period. That might change when I get to the Clone Wars comics, but as of right now, even with everything I've read of Legacy, it is my absolute favorite. Anyway, that's about it for today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, give a thumbs up. Sharing helps out a ton. Don't forget to subscribe. And I will see you next time when we go through the Knights of the Old Republic comics. Until then.